Welcome into Double T Insider. I'm Taylor Peters alongside Robert Giovanetti. Texas Tech men's basketball would start Big 12 play with a bang, a historic win over Oklahoma State here at home, 85-50, the largest margin of victory ever for Texas Tech men's basketball in a conference game. What a statement win for this team.
A lot of those guys, this is their first ever Big 12 action, and they kind of eased into it, right? It was a battle early on, but then we've talked about this a lot with this team. They find their groove and they seize control of the game and they kind of impose their will, and that's what happened with the Cowboys.
And those newcomers, though, I mean, they had ice in their veins, especially Jamias Ramsey, who had 18 points. He would lead this team, but those newcomers would combine for 65 of those points. And so I think that says a lot, too, about just the strength and the maturity. And Coach Beard talks about it, too, a lot. You know, we get to a certain point, and these aren't freshmen anymore. These are players who have a lot of experience at this level.
I was really impressed with Terrence Shannon in that game because he got in the early foul trouble, and a lot of times a kid like that will shut down. He won't play as aggressively, and he came out and had a really outstanding second half as well.
And we had mentioned Jamias just a second ago, again, leading in points, but I just feel like this team is different offensively when he is on, and you see him hit a couple of threes there, and it just totally sets this team in motion.
He's a different kind of player than I think we've seen here in a really long time. He's able to score in a lot of different ways. He's able to create his own shot. He's going to give a lot of people fits this season.
But the thing that's exciting, too, is you have Davide Moretti and Kyler Edwards, who have played in big games. They've been in big moments in their career. They've had good games so far this year, but I just still feel like they're going to be so much better, and they're going to get better and better.
Davide is one that is interesting to me, especially Coach Beard gets asked about him almost every game and post-game about, hey, because if he didn't have a great shooting night or something like that, and Coach Beard always stresses, hey, I'm not worried about Davide. He's got a green light to shoot. He's the leader of this team. He's one of the best players in the country, and Davide has been a really stabilizing force for this group.
And I think that the Big 12 Conference will be really eye-opening for this team, and I think we're going to see them. They're going to be tested a lot, especially mentally, but you'll be facing off against a really good basketball team. Doesn't matter who you're facing in the Big 12 Conference. Everybody is good, and we saw that as Texas Tech hosted number 4 Baylor here at home. I mean, Baylor they've earned the right to be able to be considered a top 10 team, and this is the second top 10 team that Texas Tech has faced off this season. Unfortunately, it didn't bring the same results.
Coach Beard told us last week, Baylor, when he looks at the Big 12, Baylor is a team that he thinks is built to make a Final Four run, and he stressed this for years now. The Big 12 is a fight. It's every game. You've got 18 rounds of a fight, and so you just have to chalk that up to, look, you took a loss here. You got to get right back on the road against West Virginia, pick it up. You know, last year's team struggled a little bit early on in conference play and had the mini road losing streak, so that's something, too, they can look back on and try to build on that and move forward.
And Coach Beard all the time says, you know, I respect this team and I respect this coach, but I think that Scott Drew is somebody that Coach Beard really regards to the highest degree, and so credit to Baylor and what he's been able to do there with the Bears. And the mark of a great team is to be able to play your best basketball against a really good team. Meanwhile, Lady Raider basketball would also start Big 12 play here at home as they hosted Iowa State, a very, very good basketball team who just was incredible shooting the 3-ball in that game, and Texas Tech would fall in game 1. But, I mean, again, you got to give a lot of credit to Iowa State, who's come a long way under Bill Finley.
I've never seen a team start the way Iowa State started on Friday night, and they just couldn't miss early on. And so a lot of credit to the Lady Raiders to fight back, right? It's easy at that point. Again, another young team, a team that's not experienced in the Big 12, fall way behind. We're able to fight back and tie it in the first half and then go into halftime down by a bucket. But just too much of that shooting and everything else in the second half for Iowa State.
You mentioned it. They were down 17 points in the first half and then, again, go into halftime down 2. But Iowa State had a third quarter that just was really unbelievable. I mean, they were 5 of 5 from behind the arc and shot 92% from the field. And when a team is able to do that, it is really, really hard to combat that. It doesn't matter how strong your offense is.
Two things about that third quarter. You mentioned the 31 points, and they got hot again in the third quarter. But they limit the Lady Raiders, I believe, to 4 points in that third quarter.
Right.
And you're not going to win any game scoring 4 points in a quarter. And, you know, they just had a hard time of getting the ball down to Brittany Brewer in the third quarter, and it played out. But, yeah, again, something got to build on and move ahead.
And Iowa State head coach said, this is the best that we could have possibly played to. And so I think that, you know, Texas Tech is now in a position to get back to the drawing board and to remember kind of who they are. Stay with us. Still to come on Double T Insider, we revisit that historic win for Texas Tech basketball over Oklahoma State. Welcome back into Double T Insider. You know, over the last couple of years, Coach Beard and his staff have kind of developed this reputation for being able to develop grad transfers. And we saw it last year with a pair of really, really great ones. And we're seeing it now with Chris Clark, who has been absolutely just instrumental in the success of this Texas Tech team.
When I first saw Chris in his first practice, I thought, wow, this guy's an alpha, right? He's in charge from the get-go. And you think about that just being early on in his career here. And it's carrying over. He's kind of a mental leader of the team. He's mentally tough. He's physically tough. I just love the way he plays the game. And
you mentioned being a mental leader. Coach Beard puts really a lot of emphasis on his leaders of his team and those upperclassmen to just really help be the spur that kind of runs this team on the bench, on the court, but especially in the locker room. And I think that he puts a lot of pressure on Chris Clark to kind of rise to the occasion. And Chris is somebody who thrives best whenever he's facing that kind of high expectations, I think.
And the interesting thing about Chris, too, he's so selfless, right, that you want him to be a little more selfish, right? And he dishes the ball off a lot. He's always looking to pass. He can score. We've seen him be able to score. And I know Coach Beard wants to get that out of him a little bit more through the Big 12 to get him to become more of a scoring threat as well.
But that selflessness is what makes him such a well-rounded player, and you need to have that, especially in your six man that's coming off the bench. I mean, Coach Beard says all the time that's one of the most important positions on the court.
And for him too, his motor is. I mean, you put him out there, the guy is going full bore the entire time.
A huge win for Texas Tech over Oklahoma State. Take a look.
If you're playing in this game is not for the weak. You better be ready for a fist fight. It's going to be a 40-minute game. Both of these teams can really defend.
Very first Big 12 conference game of 2020 coming to you from Lubbock, Texas. Texas Tech ranked 22nd in the country, down by 4, make it 2 as Davide Moretti has his first field goal of the game. Clark leads this team in rebounds and assists. Holyfield's hot to start things off. Here's Clark, top of the key. Ramsey for 3. Got it.
The shooter off the line. Really smart knowing the scouting report there.
Largest lead of the game for the Red Raiders. Here's Moretti for 3.
They were in all the right places.
Ramsey again.
I'm so impressed with how active this crowd is. When Chris Beard asks them to get up, they absolutely do that.
These games are so hard to win. I was trying to explain to these young guys in the locker room a few minutes ago that, you know, winning never gets old. You don't ever take it for granted.
This team was ready to play today, no doubt about it. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3. Music. Oh, Lord. Hey.
And now Texas Tech will head on the road and face off against West Virginia. This is maybe one of the toughest road games. It's so far away. You just are really challenged, and West Virginia is a really tough place to play in.
Coach Beard has so much respect for Coach Huggins. I think a lot of it has to do with their defensive mentality. You get off the bus and they're already guarding you, right? So they'll go full court the entire game. Really in-your-face defense the entire game. So it'll be a 40-minute fight.
And again, in the Big 12, you go one ranked opponent to the next. I mean, what's maybe the best piece of advice that you think Coach Beard is kind of giving those young players about the expectation of playing a ranked team every single week as you move forward in the Big 12?
You know, I think we've seen now, we're at Texas Tech, they're the hunted also, right? It used to be you're the hunter, you're the hunted. So I think what he talks about all the time, just trust the process, go through the same things, don't worry about the ranking number in front of the team. Just do our thing each and every game.
Respect your opponent, but fear no one, right? Stay with us. Still to come on Double T Insider, we sit down with head track and field coach Wes Kidley.
He's a West Texas native who donned the scarlet and black on the football field in the late 1950s. The two-year letter winner earned a bachelor's degree in education before graduating from medical school. As an orthopedic surgeon, he served the Amarillo community for nearly 3 decades, never forgetting his ties to Texas Tech. He's been a member of the Board of Regents and the Chancellor's Council. But Dr. Bob Stafford's proudest achievement, his family. These are the real people of Texas Tech.
Welcome back into Double T Insider. It's always a good day when we get a chance to sit down with head track and field coach Wes Kittley. Coach, just 2 weeks away from the start of this indoor season, and on tap the first indoor meet, you get to host the Corky Classic. And I know that that's one that means a lot to your group and to you in particular. How excited are you just to get this season going?
Well, Taylor, it's always fun to start that first meet, and this is our third annual Corky Classic. You know how much we thought of Corky, and would love for him to have the opportunity to be a part of all this, but it's going to be really fun. We're having a little bit of a reunion on the 17th on Friday night. We start the meet around 5 o'clock, but during that time, about 6 to 8, we're going to have over at the Fraser Pavilion where all the exes can come together and be together. And then on Saturday, we'll have them all lined up on the track and honor everybody that shows up. So anytime I get to honor Corky, and we're always going to do that with his first meet, we're real excited.
And to get to celebrate all those athletes that you said are going to get to come back who have been such an instrumental part of building this program. But so many important newcomers that are coming back from last year's team. When you look at athletes like Norman Grimes and Darius Rogers who are coming back from really important and valuable experience competing at the highest level, how much will that help your team to be able to know that they've kind of got ice in their veins when it comes to performing in those big moments?
Well, I think it's just invaluable. These guys have been in the war. They've been to the national championships. They've done really well at the national championships. They know how hard it is, and I think they're going to be able to help the younger kids, which we're pretty young on the men's side and pretty veteran-laden on the women. But I think it's going to be a good opportunity just to see how quickly we grow up.
You had mentioned the women right there, and you said this really is a senior group. Tell us about, what excites you the most about just what your girls have kind of been through and how much they've grown and developed, and how happy you are to know that they're so veteran-laden, like you said.
Yeah, I think last year at the Big 12, fighting for the conference championship, we got second, but really had a great performance here at home, and I think that they grew up a lot last year. They've also been in the war for year after year after year, knowing what it takes now. We have a lot of female seniors that I think are going to really pull this team together.
Well, and you have Zoo and Kaylee Hinton, who unfortunately had to sit out last year because of injuries. To have them back, I mean, you just watch the way that they've been working in their offseason and the way that they've been working through their injuries to kind of be prepared for this year. What's important about having those two pieces come back and be leaders on this team and to kind of help propel that women's team to victory?
I think the most exciting thing about those two young ladies is they have been injured a lot, and they're really healthy right now. So for them to be healthy and to be able to have had a great fall, I think they're ready to lead us. And this, I see a little different swagger with this women's team, that they feel a lot more confident. But I think Kaylee and Zoo and all that senior group are going to be real and valuable and like I say, leading this group.
What's maybe the biggest piece of advice that you deliver, especially to your men's team who was able to go and perform at the highest level last year in the national meet, about just kind of coming back and validating sort of who you are? You go and you have such success, but now this is a different team and this is a different year. What do you tell that group?
I think it comes back to the same thing. We have been in the war a lot, but I think we have a program now, and I think there's a difference in trying to get there, and I think our respect in the country has been gained, and I think these guys feel like we have a good team. We may have lost a lot of good kids last year, and it's hard to be that good every year, but I think they just have grown to know that we have a good program. We're going to fill in pieces that we lost last year with new people, and it's just how quickly we can grow up, how good we're going to be.
Well, Coach, we're excited for this team. We're excited for both of these teams this year, and good luck this season.
Thanks so much, Taylor.
Stay with us. We'll be right back on Double T Insider. Welcome back into Double T Insider. I'm so excited to be joined here on set by men's tennis head coach Danny White. Head coach, I mean, people are familiar with you. You're familiar with Texas Tech, having been an assistant here, but a little bit of an interesting story following last season. Kind of tell me where your thoughts were at, and then, of course, this door just a couple months after that kind of opens up for you to become the head coach.
Yeah, it's an honor, first of all, obviously, to be a head coach here for Texas Tech. There's nowhere else, I mean, that you want to be. It's an awesome place, and love the people here and love Lubbock, and so yeah, it was a kind of a crazy summer, kind of the transition of how all that happened and having a baby and all that stuff. So I don't know how many other life changes you can throw in the mix, but happy to be where I am now.
So when you heard that, you know, that spot had been opened up, the head coaching position here, I mean, what kind of goes through your mind, and do you call Kirby? Does he call you? I mean, what was that conversation sort of like for you?
Yeah, once in a lifetime opportunity. Just got to go for it and trust that what's supposed to happen is going to happen.
Absolutely, and it's neat for you too to be able to come back and be the head coach with players that you've spent a lot of time with and that you've worked a long time in investing in and developing. And so, how excited are you just to kind of be able to continue that momentum, hopefully, and as you approach in your first season here at Texas Tech?
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting part is, you know, because this would be a big step for me in any role, transitioning to a head coach of a great program, but that makes it a little more comfortable and a little more just comfortable with knowing what my role is and what I need to do starting day one with a group of guys that I know very well, and I trust them and how they want to work, and I think they, you know, trust my vision for what's best for them and all that stuff. So we work together well in that role, and I think we had a good fall and have a lot of potential for the spring with this group that we have right now.
Well, alongside those players that you've had a lot of chance developing and working with, so many of them coming back, but what are some of the pieces that you're hoping to kind of incorporate as you look at maybe some potential transfers or even some freshmen that you want to bring in?
Yeah, and that's I think we're at a good place right now because of the guys that have returned. We have a lot of guys that can win in a lot of spots, both singles and doubles, and then we've got two guys that are joining the team right now for this season. And so, you know, I think making sure we stay together well as a team, work together well, and we're going to have some new doubles teams from last season now to this year. And yeah, that's kind of the main thing is I think whatever the result of the lineup is, we're going to have a lot of depth and a lot of options for guys that can win in a lot of spots. So it's going to be good, and just kind of getting quickly to what's the best thing for us this year,
well,
and
Coach,
all that stuff.
We're excited for your team. We're excited for you to get going here, and good luck to you guys as you progress in the season.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for your time. Stay with us. We'll be right back on Double T Insider. Welcome back into Double T Insider. Coming up this week, Lady Raider basketball goes on the road to face off against TCU for their first road game in Big 12 play. That's Wednesday tonight at 6:30. They follow up facing off against Kansas State on Saturday here at home at 3 o'clock.
Chris Beard and his Red Raiders go on the road Saturday at West Virginia. That game will tip at 5, and then they'll go to Kansas State on Tuesday in Manhattan. The game will tip at 7 o'clock.
Good luck to both of those teams as they move forward in Big 12 play. That's all of our time for now. Thanks so much for being with us today on Double T Insider. For Robert Giovanetti, I'm Taylor Peters. We'll see you next week. And if you missed any part of today's show, head on over to texastech.com or download the Texas Tech TV app on Apple TV and Roku.